The series starts with showing us a fortress in the midst of an annihilation as the floor is littered with corpses. A man alone walks through it all completely unscathed without even a single drop of blood on him, still holding onto his sword because what stands before him is the final enemy, who sits there panting and laughing out of nervousness, and the man asks him if his name is Bongak. Bongak asks how he knows his name, and the man smiles saying that he doesn't remember him. But considering how many people have passed through the fortress, he can understand why. But he's still a little hurt as he's been waiting for this day for a very long time. Bongak says if he passed through here, he must have been a prisoner, and this is bad. He looks around trying to find an exit, but that distraction comes to bite him in the ass because the man closes the gap and swings his sword into the air. Cutting off both sides of his ears completely, he begins screaming in pain and tries to counter, but is too slow as the man is behind him saying that it's rude to turn away when he's still talking. Next up will be his arms and legs telling him to think back to 12 years ago. Bongak says that if it was 12 years ago, he must be an escort from the Silver Castle Escort Agency. The man's eyes look a bit bitter as he's reflecting on when he got captured as a kid in the past. But it didn't stop there as he was tortured by Bongak himself for no reason other than the fact that he could do it. He then looks pissed recalling the memory and charges and closing the gap, swinging upward. Bongak can't even react. As his blood flies, we see his arms and legs chopped off. He falls onto the floor like a nugget and starts screaming as loud as he can. The man asks him if he remembers the name of Sama Giant. Bongak laughs, asking what he's talking about, and Giant says 12 years ago, he was on a delivery when his group ambushed them, and he was taken prisoner. And he's the one who sold him off to the slave market. Bongak laughs, saying that he remembers now, he was wrong back then, apologizing. Jen grabs his chest, saying that the little porter from the Silver Castle Escort Agency that he sold into slavery should not be forgotten about, even in his death. As he starts straining the life essence from him, he yells, reminding him that his name is Sama Jin. As his blood itself starts to dry out, turning into dust within the air, we see his body completely shriveled, and Jin re-sheathes his blade and turns around, saying that this will be the last time he stains his hands with blood. From now on, he'll live a normal life. Somebody bursts through the wall, and we see him standing there calling out for Jen as his boss. Jen turns, and the man says that they released all their prisoners. He starts laughing about it. Jen tells him good work, and he asks how it feels to finally get his revenge. But also, it's hard to believe he was even forced into slavery to begin with. Jen says honestly, it wasn't as satisfying as he thought it would be, and it looks like the fortress master himself isn't here. The man says that they'll just find him and take care of him later, asking if they're now heading to his hometown. Jen says yes, and it's time that he could finally go back. Now, the blood-soaked path of the number 1 sword of the demonic path will finally be ending here. We see them walking through a field together. Jen asks him if he's certain he wants to follow him. He says of course he has nowhere else to go, but he's also curious about his hometown. Jen says that he forgot his earliest memory was training in the cult. The man says after spending his whole life grinding away in the place, getting out feels like a dream. John says that he too can't believe that it's actually real. We get a flashback to him leaving as he enters one of the buildings approaching a desk, and the man sitting there is the heaven-reaching demonic cult instructor, Guanghyo. Jian stands before him and gives him greetings. The man pours him a drink saying he was hoping he wouldn't come as he lifts that shit with the force and throws it towards him. As it flies in, Jian catches it and chugs it. He says that when they first met the great cult leader at Black Dragon Valley, he made them a promise. If they dedicated 10 to the cult, he would set them free. And finally, those 10 long years are over. And since the condition he set for him 3 years ago has also been fulfilled, Guanhyo takes his sip before putting his cup down, saying that even though the demonic factions have been unified and the heaven-reaching demonic cult has been revived, things are still far from perfect. Ji-on says the condition that he was given wasn't unification of the cult. It was to take down the 10 supremes of the demonic path, and every one of them have now knelt before the clan leader. Guanhyo says that is true, and says that out of all the children raised in the Black Dragon Valley, he was always the most outstanding. But he wasn't this good in terms of pure martial arts. He was weaker than Chulwu, who is the guy following him currently. But everything changed after he returned from destroying the Ghost Gate sect. The murderous aura that used to radiate from him vanished, and his vibe changed entirely. His martial arts reached a level that is beyond imagination, and he wonders what happened to him there. Jian says that he is sorry, but Guanghyo tells him to save his empty words as he slams the cup under the table, telling him to go ahead and go as he has worked hard all these years. and it might have been a terrible fate for him, but to him it was a blessing, and he will never forget his contributions. Jian stands there for a second before thanking him, calling him master, and walks away telling him to take care of himself. One of the men gets pissed drawing his blade, but Guan Hyo says that is enough and to just let him leave in peace. And they watch as he exits the door. Chul Wu sticks his head out and says that he will see him later, calling them suckers. Ji Ian says he finally made it out after finishing those impossible missions, and he doesn't know if his family will recognize him because it's been over 10 years. Chul Wu then yells saying that they finally found the guardian deity he was talking about, and it's fucking huge as we see a giant tree. John looks relieved to finally be home. He says every year his parents and the elders would gather here to hold a ritual. Whenever he had the chance he'd climb up there and play with his younger siblings, and he's finally back. Chul Wu laughs at the fact he had a childhood like that, saying he thought he was born stone-faced. Some kids then call out to them, and when they look over they tell him that outsiders can't touch the tree. Jen says he's not one, and that they must belong to a peach blossom village. They ask if he knows of their village, and he says of course. He also knows this is the guardian deity, and he used to live here when he was a kid. They're surprised, and he says that there's a small pond on the north side of the village, and just to the left of it there's a small thatched roof house that's his. They ask if he's telling the truth, and he says of course with a smile on his face, and the little girl tells him to stop lying. He asks what she means, and she says that it's a dude's house. A dude doesn't have a dad or a big brother who looks like a mountain bandit either. Chul Wu starts to get annoyed, and the boy tells her that it could be an uncle. But she says that she's never heard of an uncle this ugly, and they start to run away, and Chul Wu yells asking who they are calling an ugly bandit. Jian wonders who a du is, as that's a name he has never heard of before. Meanwhile, on the way there, Chul Wu is ripping off peaches from a nearby tree, and is chomping on them, saying this shit is super sweet, and he understands why it's called the Peach Blossom Village. He tells John to try one, but he says he's fine. As they continue, he makes his way back to his house saying he's dreamed of this place, and it's just the same as they left it. Chul Wu asks if this is where he grew up, but he says it is. A man then asks who he is, and when they turn around they see him, and a lot of the villagers mean mugging him. With them is the little girl who spotted him earlier. The man says this is a dude's house, asking what brings him here. He says that can't be right. This is the house of his family, the Samas. It's where they've lived since their ancestors' times. The man asks who he is, and Jian recognizes him, calling him Mr. Zhang. He says that he knows that he's Mr. Zhang from the village chief's house. He says he is, but asks who he may be. Jian grabs his hands, telling him that it's him. He says he used to live in this house. Then he recognizes the name as the little kid who lived here years ago. Jian says that's right, and Zhang says there's no way. Jian then asks if he remembers now, as he shows him the Harry Potter scar on his forehead, saying that he got this when that brat woke hit him. They rock after losing a fight. Zhang starts to tear up, saying he does remember, and runs and hugging him while crying, asking where the hell he's been all this time. And what happened? Jian starts to feel so relieved. At sunset, he heads to the village chief's house. Zhang asks once more if he really is the same kid who went missing 12 years ago. Jian says he remembers Zhang trying to stop him several times, saying that being an escort for the Silver Castle Agency was dangerous. Zhang says that he remembers him being super determined to be the head of a household since he was a child. They all thought that he died when the job went wrong, asking where he's been all this time. Jian goes to tell him and recalls the last fight he was in. As we see a man distancing himself, spitting up blood, as the one who sent him flying was none other than John. This is the northern heavenly sword demon. He says 300 years have passed since the heavenly demon died and the demonic path was shattered into pieces. He scoffed when he heard about those arrogant fools who, under the insolent name of the heaven-reaching demonic cult, claimed they would unite the path, but it turned out to be true. The rumors that they defeated all of the 10 strongest except for him with just a single unit. Jian tells him that he's the last one, and if he defeats him, he'll be a free man. Sword Demon laughs, telling him to try it, and if he can defeat him, he will be the strongest in the entire demonic path. He flies in as they exchange swords with one another. The Sword Demon realizes he's getting pushed back before he gets sent flying across the battlefield, and he barely manages to stop himself. He begins coughing up, saying that he never expected him to be this strong before passing out. Jian sighs, seeing that it's finally over, and he looks at the sun. And back to the present, he puts his cup down, saying Zhang wouldn't believe him if he told him, but says he was sold as a mercenary and wandered place to place, only just now managing to return. Jang says that he must have suffered a lot, and Jian asks where his family went. He says that his younger siblings left for Sohyung. Jian asks if he heard that right. Jang says that it's been about 6 years after they heard what happened to him. They held on for as long as they could. That was it. Jian says that he never knew this, and the next day in the village, we see him bowing to Zhang as he waves them by. He recalls Zhang telling him that his mother passed away last year. He makes his way up into the mountains. He sits atop a cliff and starts bawling his eyes out, saying that he has committed an unforgivable sin against his mother, and he doesn't know if he could ever be forgiven for this. He finally heads to Sohyung and stands before where his family lives, saying that this place is run down. Cholwoo asks what's wrong, and if he's scared, and if so, it's been a long time since he's seen him like this, as it was just a little while ago that he was strolling through enemy territory like it was a walk in the park. Jian asks if that's really the same as this. Cholwoo asks if it is meant to be any different, telling him to just kick the door open. Jian says it's not that easy. He doesn't know how he can face them now, as they must have suffered so much to have moved to a shitty place like this. Cholwoo says they can just earn money and buy a new house. So what's the deal of worrying about it? Just go inside. Jian says that he's low-key right and knocks on the door, saying they'll never be separated again. A woman walks up from behind asking who he is, and when he turns, he's surprised as he spots her, then recalls memories of his little sister that he used to carry around, asking if it is who he thinks it is. Cholwoo says she's super pretty, and she gets embarrassed, and Jian walks by, hitting him in the face. He then asks if she is Jean. She asks how he knows her. He tells her that she's grown so much. And when he goes to tell her that it's him, he's shocked as he's grabbing her hands. He can sense that there is so much energy in her body. She pulls her hands away, yelling to let go, and falls onto the floor. Realizing what happened is he goes to apologize before 2 more people run over, asking what the hell he's doing. When they turn, she calls him little brother, and he runs in asking who he is to touch his sister. He says if it's the little brother, and dodges the attack, saying that it must be Haga. He says that's right. He is Guang Ho of the Concordant Mind Association. He runs back in, saying that he must be one of those cowardly bastards from the Blood Axe sect, as he starts dodging each and every one of his attacks. Jian wonders if his brother became a gangster, saying that both of his siblings have grown so much. Hogue then pulls out his knife, asking if harassing his sister wasn't enough, as now he's messing with him. Their other brother tells him that's enough, as he shouldn't be behaving this way on the anniversary of mother's death. Jion says that must be Hyun. As Hyun says joining a gang has made him reckless, they start arguing. Jion says they've grown so much, but he's relieved as he closes his eyes. Hogue takes it as an opening and charges in once more. Cholwoo grabs the knife with his bare hands and shatters it. Hogue calls him a monster, and Cholwoo laughs, saying, that's right, because he is the Great Diamond Monster. Hogue says he has no idea what that is, asking why he's trying to steal from their house. This pisses Cholwoo off. He says first he was labeled a bandit, and now a thief, saying he doesn't even look like one. But Jen says to wait and goes to introduce himself before Hoga says that it's the Axe Blood sect. Jen turns around, spotting a group of men walking towards them. That dude is ugly as fuck, and he says he's never seen them around before, wondering who they are. He then gets close to Jian because Jian doesn't answer, asking him again. The other ugly fuck goes up to Chulwoo, wondering what's the deal with this giant. Haga barks, saying this is the Concordant Association's territory. So what are they doing here? Gion says that these men must be from the Blood Axe clan, and Ugly says they decided to take this place over starting now. Hoga starts yelling, saying that first they sent that monster, and now they've come to jump them. Ugly tells Gion to cooperate, and he'll let this end nicely. As he walks past him, his blade gets unsheathed, and Jen throws it to the floor as the dude's head begins bleeding and completely falls off of his head, rolling onto the floor. His men all look over in horror. Holy shit, they have a monkey and an onion back there. They all start grabbing onto their weapons, asking how that happened. Then Ji-on uses sound transmission to tell Chul-woo to clean it up. As they all leap at him, he smiles before charging in, breaking their swords, and next he's beating the shit out of them. After defeating them in an instant, he says they were just a bunch of nobodies, but maybe he went too far as some of these dudes were deleted. That guy can probably just walk it off though. Hoga and the rest are horrified that they took them down in an instant, saying that they thought they were hired by them. Chul-woo then points towards their bodies, saying that surely they don't think they're on the same side anymore. Jian says they are not bandits, and calls his siblings all by their names, and shows them his scar, asking if they really don't recognize him. They ask if he's really their brother, and he says that he's finally returned. Hyun's the first to run in, hugging him, crying, asking where he's been, while the other two still have the realization settling in. Sometime later in the house, they're having a meal and drinking. Chul-woo says he likes Hoag's attitude, and they should have a lot of people like him under them. Hoag then asks why he keeps calling Jiyeon captain, and Chul-woo says because he got his ass kicked when he challenged the captain as a kid and owes him his life. Jiyeon tells him to stop talking nonsense, and it's just a lie because he doesn't want to call him brother. He then asks how everybody's been, and Hyun says he's working as an escort at the Pearl Sea Escort Agency. Jiyeon looks surprised, and Hyun says that he must have not heard from Jang, but right now he's learning the trade under the general manager. Ji-hyun says that mother must have been strongly against it. Hyun says that she was much more than he would think. Hoga says that, of course, she was because their eldest brother went missing while working as one, and he shouldn't have thought about taking that job in the first place. Hauj tells him that he doesn't want to hear it from a thug. Hauj tells him he makes more money though. Hauj reminds him that he exploits the weak and they don't need that kind of money. Hoga tells him that they don't actually exploit anyone, and that's not something that he'll ever do. Jean slams the meal on the table, telling them to stop arguing, because after 12 years, their brother's finally back, and all they can do is fight. Blood starts to pour out from her nose, and she quickly covers it. Jiyeon runs over, and she starts coughing, and he asks why the yin energy in her body is too strong. Haga asks how he knows, and Jiyeon asks if she's been to a doctor, and if so, what was the diagnosis. Hyun says they went to everyone skilled in the area, but no one knew. The doctor who made the most sense said the same thing he did, and that her hands and feet are cold, and her face is pale because of the yin energy. She says that it's more or less bearable now, and starts to walk out of the room, and closes the door behind her. Hyun says the reason they left and moved here is because of the doctor here in Soyoung. Hoag agrees, saying that she's only able to manage because she's taking medicine that replenishes her yin energy, and if not for that, she'd already be dead. Jiyeon asks if there's a cure. Hyun says he doesn't know about a cure, but he said it might be possible to alleviate the symptoms. But it costs a ton of money, and it's not cheap, and they can't afford with how much they make. They wouldn't have a chance if it weren't for the money that Haga brings in, and he doesn't even have the right to criticize him. He starts crying. Jen stands there, realizing how tough it must have been for them, and comforts his brothers, saying that even though he thinks he doesn't, of course, he has the right to make sure his brother goes down the right path. And he's the one with the least right since he just returned, and he's sorry for that. But they shouldn't worry about the money, and go see the doctor tomorrow. Hyun thanks him, saying that they'll leave so he can rest because he must be tired. Ji-on watches and pours himself a drink. Cheol-woo says that if he had known, he would have brought some with him. Ji-on asks if he means the stuff from the bandits, and he says yeah, they had so much money but they were told just to leave it behind. Ji-on reminds him that it belongs to the people they captured, and they have to send it to the families of the escorts and merchants who lost their lives, and he didn't even want to touch their money. Chul-woo says that's up to him, and then asks him to remember the item they got from the demonic Buddha temple, since selling that would be more than enough. But he also wants to know what he thinks her condition looks like to him since he checked up on her. He says he doesn't know because he's not a doctor. Chul-woo says surely he has an idea, and he says the balance of energy in her body is broken, and the yin energy is overwhelmingly strong. Chul-woo says that surely he could infuse her with the yang energy because with his internal energy, it should be no problem. Ji-on says that it doesn't seem to be that simple. He tried injecting some, but it had no effect. There didn't seem to be any path for it to even enter. Chul-woo asks what that means, and Ji-on says if they leave her like this, she'll die very soon. The next day they all head to the clinic, and we see it's completely in chaos. Ji-on says that it seems they got here too late, and while they rest here first thing in the morning, it's still packed, and the doctor must be as good as they say. Hoga says that he's incredibly famous, but he'll handle this. As he walks forward, he yells towards some men greeting them saying they must be hard at work. Chul-woo asks who they are. Hyun says they're from the same association. They go around to all the businesses under the pretext of maintaining order just to extort money. Chul-woo says that they're just playing local security, but asked why they're so humble. Yesterday he heard that they were the pillars of the area. Hyun says pillars is asked they're just low-level grunts. Chul-woo laughs saying that everybody has to start somewhere. Haga tells them to come on as they'll head inside. Chul-woo says that he's a reliable one. As they all start to walk in, Ji-on says there are a lot of doctors here, not just patients. Hyun says he's traveled around with the escort agency, but he's never seen a clinic bigger than this even outside of Sohyung. When he first came here, there was only one room and a single doctor named SOS Oma, and his skill alone grew this place to this scale in just a few years. Chulwoo says he definitely doesn't seem like a quack, but Jiyeon finds it odd that even a doctor apparently that's skilled can't cure her. While Haga greets one of the doctors who tells him that his appointment wasn't scheduled today, Haga says that things changed and let the doctor know they're ready. Bro says bet he'll go fetch his master right away. As they actually make their way into the clinic, now they're guided to a room. There's knocks on the door before the doctor enters, saying that he was surprised to hear they'd arrived, because they should have still had medicine left from their last visit. And he hopes Jin's condition hasn't worsened. He gets close, and fortunately it hasn't. And Hogus says it's not that. His older brother wanted to meet him, so they came early. Jian introduces himself, and so does the doctor, saying that his name is Huang Jiang. He's been seeing this family for years, but he had no idea there was an eldest brother. Jiyeon says he has a good impression and seems humble. However, he can tell he's learned martial arts. Chulwoo tells Jiyeon that he's actually pretty good, and Jiyeon agrees, saying he has some skill. He tells him he was in some distant lands for a while, and when he returned, he found out his sister was gravely ill. He rushed her the moment he heard that he was the one treating her. Jiang says that he wouldn't go as far as to call it treating, but regardless, he's glad he's returned. He starts checking her pulse, continuing the checkup, and says that his sister's illness has always weighed heavily on his heart, making him reflect on how lacking his abilities are. Hyun says that he shouldn't say that. It's thanks to him that she's even able to live a somewhat normal life. If it weren't for him, she would have left this world long ago. He says he appreciates these kinds of words, but in the end, all he's done is slow the progression to avoid the worst-case scenario. Jiyeon wonders if he means death, but says that he heard that using high-quality medicinal herbs could be more effective. Jiang is surprised and says that since the herbs they're currently using show results, he was thinking that using superior-grade herbs, since might actually yield better progress. Jiang asks what kind of herbs they need, and he tells him up until now he's been using herbs with strong yang energy to neutralize the yin energy in her body. The core ingredient is the fire spirit herb, and since they've seen some efficacy, there is a high probability that herbs with similar or even greater potency would work. 1,000-year fire spirit herb would be the best, but given the price, it's impossible to obtain. Other than that, there is Gongchang petroleum. Jiyeon asks if there's any in stock here, and he says there's no way a place like this would have such a legendary elixir. And Chulwoo and Jiyeon agree that for a martial artist, that's a legendary treasure they'd kill to get their hands on. And then he asks the doctor where he can find it. Jiyeon tells him that if he's heard of the Soyoung merchant group, they have it here. Jiyeon asks if he means the one based in Hangzhou. Ji says exactly, they're one of the largest merchant groups in the Central Plains. Not long ago, the chairman's son contracted malaria, and they summoned him in a hurry. He was shocked when the chairman showed it to him, saying that it was a medicinal ingredient that might help with the treatment. Jiyeon asks if he used it then. Jiyeon says hell no. If he had used the petroleum for something like malaria, every doctor in the world would have laughed at him. When he told him he didn't need it, the chairman made a comment half joking about selling it. Jiyeon asks for how much, and he tells him that he said he would sell it for 300 gold. And they're all surprised. Jin realizes that's a price they can't afford. Hyen explains that it's because 1 gold is enough for half a year's worth of medicine for them. Cheol-woo asks if there's any other way they could get it on credit, and Ji-on tells him not to be ridiculous. Cheol-woo says the cash they brought won't be close, but if they sell their item, it might be possible. Ji-on's brothers ask what he's talking about, and Ji-on uses sound transmission, telling him he better not bring up that damn Buddha staff again. Chol-woo covers it up, saying that when he was working back as a mercenary, he happened to find something. They thought it was just a glowing rock, but he was shocked to find out it sells for a fortune. Ji-on says that's right. Apparently, its value is 400 gold, and his brothers once more look surprised. Jin begins to cry, and Ji-on tells her not to worry. He will find a way to get it for her. He then tells Jiang he would like to arrange a meeting for buying the petroleum. Jiang says he'll set it up immediately. And sometime later, he makes his way to the merchant group. And this guy looks like those dogs that have super flabby faces. But he tells him he won't sell it. Jian asks him to repeat himself, and he asks why he has two. He tells him again that his merchant group will not sell him the petroleum. Oh shit. Gang has ice on his grill. Asking if he understands him, Jian asks why he has no intention of trading, and the guy says that this isn't enough to cover the cost. John stares at him asking if he thinks it's a fake, and if he does, he can appraise it as thoroughly as he likes. He says it's not that, as the head of the Suyong merchant group has a decent eye for these things. This is definitely a night glow pearl, a high-quality one at that. Jen asks why he's refusing then, and he stares at him for a second before replying that he did tell the physician he'd sell it for 300 gold, but he never intended to part with it, and he must have heard the reason he brought it out. Jen says that it was for his son who contracted malaria, and he brought it out for his treatment. The merchant says that's correct, and it was chronic malaria, the most difficult kind to treat, and he had no choice but to bring it out. Since the petroleum is a legendary elixir said to be able to bring the dead back to life, and it's even rarer than a star in the daylight. Cholwoo stares at him, and the merchant says that if word gets out that his merchant group possesses it, they'll become a target for every vulture out there. That's why he kept its existence a strict secret, intending to save it as an emergency reserve for the family's inner circle. He even made Jiang swear an oath of secrecy after explaining the situation, and he knows he's not the type to break a promise lightly. Given his character, he must have let it slip while searching for a way to save a patient in critical condition, and he assumes that patient related to him. Jian just continues staring, and the merchant says that he has a decent eye for things. Since the secret is out, it's only a matter of time before the vultures descend, and he supposes he needs to dispose of it now. But he can't just hand over a precious elixir so easily, as a true merchant hikes the price when the demand is desperate, and the price now is 500 gold. This pisses Cholwoo off, but Jian doesn't say anything. The merchant then picks up the pearl saying that it's definitely top grade, but it's a bit small, so it would honestly be hard to even get 400 gold from it. He'd need a perfect buyer just for that. At best, it is 300 gold, but there is an extra 100 gold penalty plus another 100 for the sudden surge in demand. So if he pays the extra 200, it is all his. Cholwoo asks if he's out of his damn mind, and there's a limit to how much bullshit he can take anymore, and he'll blow this place off the fucking map. Ji-on tells him to clam down, asking how much they have on them. Cholwoo says including what they brought when they left, maybe 120 gold. Jian then tries to negotiate, telling him to just call it at 100 gold, as they need enough to keep on living for the time being. And he said he had a good eye for people, so he is curious as to what they look like to him. He says that he's young, but he has the dignity of someone who's crawled through a bloodbath. They've walked the path of the demonic cult. They've taken more lives than they can count, and when he finally managed to escape that place, he made a promise to himself that he'd leave that life behind and live a quiet, normal life with his family instead. But his family is dying right now, and he doesn't have the luxury of keeping that promise. So surely he can understand what a man in his situation is capable of doing. The merchant says if he is revealing a past that could ruin him, he isn't lying. He agrees, saying that he'll take it, but he must consider this as a massive favor from their group. In exchange, he'll have to help him with a certain request later on. Jian agrees, and as they're heading back to the house, they set up camp for the night and start eating some food. Jian says he's sorry for using their shared funds. Cheol-woo asks what he's talking about, as they're saving the kids' lives, so it doesn't matter whose money it is. He was just pissed off at how the scumbag tried to fleece them when he knew exactly what kind of spot they're in. And he's debating just going back right now. Ji-eun tells him to stop yapping, as he surely doesn't want to stain the medicine to heal his sister with blood. Kail-woo says he is right. Ji-eun tells him the things they did back then they did only because they had to survive. And the people they killed weren't exactly saints either. They were all bastards of the demonic path, but it's still true that their hands are stained with it, including the 10 Supremes, for the sake of unifying the cult. Now that they've escaped, that they can ditch those old habits, especially if they want to blend into society. The Central Plains has its own order centered around the Murum world and the great clans. They have to play by their rules now. And he asks him to remember when he handed over that 100 gold, and he said they should keep enough for living expenses. Since he saved money, he thinks things turned out for the best. If they save his sister, they can find honest work to make a living, and he wants to take responsibility as the head of his family and build a normal life together with them. And he hopes that in some small way it serves as atonement to their late mother. Of course, he's not forcing this on him, as he's free to leave whenever he wants. Chol-woo says he's sorry he just got carried away. After they sacrificed everything to get out of that hell, he just can't walk away. Especially when he thinks about their fallen comrades, and the whole situation just brings back old memories. Jen asks what he's talking about, and he says he's talking about the petroleum he got from the Guiman clan and gave it to him. If he'd saved some instead of chugging it all, they wouldn't be going through all this right now. Jen says there wasn't even that much to begin with. And for a guy his size, it was barely enough. He laughs saying he has a point. But thanks to that, he's perfected his diamond body technique. And he can even smell the blood off the people approaching them. And he wonders what their deal is. Jen says he doesn't know, but he's got a bad feeling about it, and there's only one way to find out. As he grabs his bag, horsemen begin to approach them, surrounding them in their encampment. They then start hopping off, approaching them, and Jen says it won't be smooth sailing after all. One of the men says that for some beggars, they sure do move fast. He thought they were going to lose him for a second. They say they should start by taking their legs. Jen asks if they've been tailing them, and the bandit tells them to hand over the goods nice and easy, and they'll let him die without a struggle. That is an awful haircut. He says that if they refuse, they'll make sure they suffer through the agonies of hell, unable to live yet unable to die. They say they're looking for the item he got from the So Young merchant group. Jiyeon says that he guesses he really can't trust anybody because that bastard didn't keep it a secret like he said, but tells him to get lost as he's seen enough blood for a lifetime. And if he does leave, he'll act like this never happened. That awful haircut tells him to stop playing dumb with him as they followed him after confirming that he got the petroleum. The other men say that if they were him, they'd hand it over right now. They have no idea how worried their boss was that the old man might have already chugged it himself. And if they took any longer, they would have ran in and got it themselves. But also, it must be better to go out the easy way. They can just hand it over and die. They then start talking shit to Chul-woo, talking about how he's as big as a bear, but ugly as hell. He says that's funny, asking who they're meant to be, and they ask if he really needs to know them. But since they're going to be dead men, there's no harm in telling them. Chul-woo and Ji-on both smirk at each other, and they introduce themselves as the Thousand Killers Gang. They are elite heroes that belong to them. Awful Haircut tells them all to shut the hell up as he's going to count to 3, and they can make their choice on if they want a quick death or one that's full of pain. Chul-woo asks if the dude's just mad at his barber, trying to take it out on them, and this pisses him off until he tells them all to jump their shit. They start drawing their blades, and Chul-woo says that there's no reason for them to hold back, and Ji-yeon says that he did try to warn them. Chul-woo says that based on the killing intent and the fact that he reeks like blood, he can tell he's taken quite a few lives. Awful Haircut says that he's going to gouge out his eyes and rip his tongue from his throat. As the men start smirking, Chul-woo taunts them, saying to come and get their shit rocked, but Ji-yeon tells him to wait a second. He asks why, and then he points over. Chul-woo looks, and we see 3 people walking towards them from the woods. Chul-woo gets a little disappointed. The bandits wonder what's going on, and a woman says that it looks like some unlucky merchants are getting robbed, and they look absolutely terrified. She says they seem to be in quite a bind, wondering if they need help. Ji-in wonders who they are, trying to help a total stranger, but tells her they are from the Hangzhou underworld. Chul-woo tells Ji-in that they actually have some skills, and he agrees that they are some high-level experts. Chul-woo says he wouldn't go that high, but they're still strong enough to wipe the floor with these thugs. Ji-yeon says the real expert is that woman. Chul-woo says in that case, he'll leave it to him. Ji-yeon asks for her to lend them a hand, and she steps in front of them. And her men say that it looks like they're planning to attack them, wanting to know what to do. The other dude is pissed that they're directing their killing intent at him, and she says that if they back off now, she'll let them leave in one piece, and she'll overlook everything that's happened so far. Haircut says they might be from a high-ranking family, but right now, getting the petroleum is all that matters. He yells, saying that she doesn't know her place, ordering all of his men to kill her. As they leap at the first guy, he unsheathes his blade, tossing his scabbard into the air as the bandits collapse around him, all striking down where he is. We see them actually getting all their attacks deflected as they fall backwards onto the floor, with only one man standing right beside him now. But he's also losing consciousness as he begins bleeding from his face and falls over. The man smirks looking down at him, and Chul-woo's actually impressed. Haircut realizes that this shit is bad and leaps off his horse. But the other man blocks his blade and lands behind him. He says that if he had just accepted his lady's mercy, he might have lived, though he finds the current situation far more interesting. Haircut runs in at him and thrusts towards his head, but the guy sidesteps, saying that it's actually pretty impressive. Haircut follows up with a swing, aiming for his throat, but the guy ducks underneath, countering and slicing across Haircut's chest, practically cleaving him in two, and he falls down onto the floor. The other guy asks what took so long, and he says that the boss was actually a boss for a reason. His friend asks if he was even that good. He says he had a decent amount of momentum, but to look at the prisoners they have, as once a few of them died, the others dropped their weapons on their own. He wanted to cut them all down, but the lady told him to let them live. He says that sounds just like her. Jian thanks them for saving their lives. She says not at all, and it's only natural that she would help them, and she's glad that she could. Jian says that he should properly introduce himself, but they're in a dire hurry. He doesn't mean any disrespect to his saviors. She tells him to not be ridiculous and go on ahead, as they'll take care of these things by themselves. He then tells her his name, and if the opportunity ever arises, he'll be sure to repay this debt of gratitude. Chul-woo says that shit was cringe, and Jian tells him to shut up. And as they walk away, the woman's bodyguards say that they were a strange pair. But no matter how much of a hurry they were in, they should have helped clean out this mess. She says they did ask for their understanding, and she agreed. She doesn't know how much they would have helped to begin with. Then she realizes something, and they ask what's wrong. She says that those two men weren't afraid at all, and there wasn't even a hint of fear. Even with all those people bleeding and dying, they didn't flinch once, and that look of absolute indifference as if it had nothing to do with them, as if they were just casual bystanders watching a show. Back at the clinic, Ji-on enters a room, and the door opens as Ji-on runs in asking if he got it. He says fortunately, they did manage to obtain it, and he says that he's truly ashamed as he should have gone with him. Ji-on says not to say that, and just telling him how to get the petroleum was more than enough. Jong thanks him for his understanding, but asks where the guy who's always with him is. He says he sent him to go get the youngest since he told them all to hurry so they should be arriving soon. He says he understands. Jion says maybe they were being too impatient because it seems like he has something urgent to attend to, and he apologizes since he was in a rush. He thought it would be best to start the treatment immediately, but they can come back whenever it's convenient for him. He says that he's misunderstood him. It's not that he doesn't have time or it's inconvenient. The truth is there was another reason why he couldn't go with them, the merchant group, as he has guests from his main family. Ji-on asks what he means, and Ji-on gets a little embarrassed asking if he's ever heard of the medical house of the living immortal. Ji-on's surprised saying that the famous medical clan said to be able to bring back the dead from the medical house, but he knew he was amazing from the moment he treated their youngest when no one else knew how. Though this much is incredible, Jong says that he flatters him, as he hasn't even treated her. He's just been struggling to keep her condition stable. Because his sister's condition was so unique, he's consulted the main family and requested a doctor several times. The main family showed great interest, but unfortunately for the past few years, the Central Plains have been ravaged by various plagues, so they didn't have the manpower to send anyone. However, that's changed. Jion asks if that means a doctor from the main family has finally arrived, and he says yes. He's on his way to Hangzhou for some business, but will stop by for a moment. And he agreed to come back here after finishing his work to examine his sister's condition. Ji-on looks relieved, and Jiang tells him that he is one of the top doctors in the clan, and compared to him his skills are nothing but a side hobby. Jiang bows his head thanking him, saying he doesn't know how to repay this kindness. Jiang says that it's just his job as a doctor, and he said he'd return as quickly as possible once his business is done, but he can't say for certain exactly when that will be. Jiang says not to worry. As long as she can be cured, waiting doesn't matter, and he can wait for as many days as it takes. Jiang tries to tell him that's not what he's talking about. Jiang asks if something's wrong, and Jiang says that it's difficult to give a definitive answer regarding an illness, but he looks so happy he can't bring himself to say it, and instead he tells him he'll be in touch. Sometime later back at the house, we see everybody out enjoying themselves. As Jean brings some food for Jion, he asks Hyun where he's going, and he says he's going to Wuxi. He says that's quite a way up, and Hyun says it's nothing, but if nothing special happens, he should be back in about 2 weeks. Jion thinks about it, saying that he's been meaning to say this for a while, asking how long he plans to keep being a porter. Hyun says that he has to keep doing it. Jion tells him that it's too dangerous, and he did that work, yet only returned after 12 years. Ji-yeon tries to tell him that it's a bad idea, but Hyun says that he started at 17, and it's already been 5 years. There's no law saying there won't be danger in the future, but how can he get anything done if he's afraid of things that haven't happened? Besides, the treatment is better compared to other escort bureaus. Ji says that he has some money saved up, and with that money, he can make a living even without working as a porter. Hyun is confused because he heard he spent it all trying to buy up the petroleum. Ji-yeon realizes that Chul-woo is a snitch, and he quickly says that he was just asking so many damn questions. Hyun asks why he's being like that to Chul-woo, wondering if he wanted him to hide it. Also, even if there were money left over, there's nothing specific for him to do. Ji-yeon says they could buy some rice paddies in fields. Kyon asks if he's ever tried farming, and that he doesn't remember how they used to do it when they were kids, and he's sure he doesn't either. As they continue just yapping, they get onto the topic of talking about businesses. Jean tells them all to eat food, and Hoga says that he's down to start a business and he can even get a good location for it. Chul-woo asks if he means by using the society, but also if he even thinks it's possible. Hoga says that he might not look like much, but he has at least as much influence. Chul-woo says that from what he saw the other day, but says never mind. Hyun asks what the rush is. They haven't been back for long, and they need to keep an eye on the youngest treatment. If he's really that worried, he can work with him. Given Chul-woo's size, the bureau head would come running to welcome him. He says he'd rather be an escort than be a porter. And Jiyeon says that he's not so sure about doing that kind of work again. Hyun says that it's his choice to make. He can take his time thinking about it. Jean seems to be thinking about something. And Ji-hyun says that he was in too much of a hurry. And for now, he'll take his time thinking about it seriously. But he should too. He won't tell him to quit right this second, but he wants him to give it some thought. Hyun says that he'll think about it seriously just as he said, and they start eating their food. Later out in the town, Chul-woo says that this is hard. Asking if he wants to take a break, Ji-yeon says sure, and they head over to an inn to get some dumplings. Bro tries to get alcohol and they say they don't serve any. He says he'll just take the dumplings then. But ask Ji-yeon what they're going to do. No matter how hard he looks, there's no suitable work for them. Ji-yeon says that he's right. He told Hyun that, but after living by the blade his whole life, finding work isn't easy. Chul-woo asks if he really wants to try starting a business. And Ji-yeon says that means that they have to ask Ho-jae for a favor. Chul-woo says that he should give his family a chance to hold their heads high. But Ji-yeon says no. After Hyun, he's gonna pull Ho-jae out of that gang too. And it wouldn't be right to ask for a favor. Besides, they don't have the personality to run a business because Chul-woo would probably start scrapping with the customers. He laughs saying that he has a point. And when the guy brings out the dumplings, they start to eat it. He says the shit's really good. Ji-yeon agrees, saying they're much better than what they had yesterday and that the filling is really good. He asks the man if it's pork, and he says that it is made with ground pork. Ji-yeon wonders if the other shop used poor quality meat, as while it's the same, there's a big difference. The worker says he doesn't know where else he's been eating dumplings, but no place uses meat as high quality as their shop. Ji-yeon says that he thought all pork was the same. Chul-woo says it might be a different cut, but the guy says it's not about the cut. It's about the person who butchered the pig. Ji says that he guesses there's a specific way to slaughter them. And the dude tells him that the method is the same everywhere. It's just that the butcher's skill is different. Ji-yeon says he doesn't understand, and Kail-woo yells to watch out. Ji-yeon turns only to spot Kail-woo straight up shoulder checking a pig until it falls onto the floor dead. He asks Ji-yeon if he's okay, and he says he is. Kail-woo asks where the hell a pig came from out of nowhere, and some men run over to grab it, asking him if he's okay. He says he's fine, but he's not so sure about the pig. Then apologizes for killing it, but surely they won't ask for compensation. They start to panic until an older man approaches from behind, calling them all idiots. The old man continues asking how many times this makes, as they apologize. The old man says they should be apologizing to them instead of him. They apologize to Chul-woo and Ji-yeon says it's fine. Since nobody was hurt, the old man says he's sorry that the applicants let the pig they were holding get away. He's just glad it was stopped without any major accidents. Ji-yeon asks what he means by applicants, and the old man says that he used to run that butcher shop over there and he's been looking for someone to take over for him. These are the men who applied for the job. Jen's curious as to if he's the same dude who butchered the pigs used in the dumplings. He says that's right. Jen then asks if they could take a look at the shop for a moment. He asks what there is to see as it's not exactly a pleasant sight. Ji-yeon says that it's definitely not a common one either. The old man finds it interesting, telling him to do as he pleases. They head over to his shop, and when he's looking down at the pig that Chul-woo killed, he says that sadly it's useless after it was killed in the street. Then he asks the men what they think went wrong with the butchering process. One of them says that he should have aimed for the exact center of the head. The other dude says that it ran after seeing the pin. The old man tells them they're all correct. However, it was wrong from the beginning. He told them clearly that the top priority is ensuring the subject of the slaughter doesn't realize what's happening. They laugh at him, saying that there's no way they can communicate with animals. And the old man realizes he'll have to demonstrate as a pig's over there chomping away like me and a bowl of cereal. He stands right in front of it, telling them to watch closely. He puts it right up to its skull, and they're surprised, saying that just a moment ago it would go crazy just from the sight of it. And he says that's because it doesn't feel any killing intent from him. They ask him to explain. He says that there's nothing that reacts more sensitively to killing intent than a beast. They feel threatened immediately even by the slightest trace of it. For instance, like this, as he starts to release it, the pig freaks out. Chulwoo is surprised that he could do it, asking Jian if he is a master, and Jian says that he has no trace of practicing martial arts, but he is impressive. The old man says only when you reach the point where you don't expose your killing intent can say you are finally ready, as he raises his hammer into the air. We hear a whack, and they're all just speechless. He says what's more important is that you must end it in a single blow. It doesn't even know why it died. Chulwoo says that's insane. It died without even being able to scream. Ji-on agrees because he says it was a powerful strike. And the old man says that the real work only begins after its breath has been cut off. He orders them to quickly drain it of the blood. Chulwoo says that the old man has quite the lungs, as he can yell so damn loud, asking if that was necessary. A man sweeping says that he has no children, so he's looking for someone to carry on the reputation of the shop he's built. Chulwoo asks what's so great about slaughtering cows and pigs, as he should just let it go, asking Ji-on what he thinks. Ji-on says that if it's something he's dedicated his life to, we might feel that way, and think about Master Bolto, which is a famous story in the Black Dragon Valley, because he rejected so many people before him. Chulwoo asks if it's really the same as this, but says his lungs were amazing too. Ji-on says that's not what he's talking about, but he talks about how he was huge, and that is why he favored Chulwoo. Chulwoo laughs, saying he heard that a lot too. And Ji-on says they should take over this butcher shop. Chulwoo is surprised, asking if he really means it, and Ji-on says yes. They looked all day, but there was nowhere for them to work. Of course, it would be different. They picked up the sword, but he wants to do work that he can speak of proudly to his younger brothers. Just hiding their past is already a burden, and he's almost let it slip multiple times. Jian then calls out to the old man, asking if they can apply too. He says he supposes that looked easy after seeing what he did, but they should just head back. John says not at all. There's no way they would harbor such shadow thoughts after seeing a strike like that, and they call it one strike, one kill. And it was a skill that truly conveyed the weight of his years. The old man tells him to wait a moment as he guides a pig into the room, and it stands before Jian. He says that taking over this place means he can at least perform the slaughter, wanting to see his skill. Jian says that he's never butchered before, but he'll give it a try. He kneels before the pig and puts the rod to its head before hammering it just like he did. The old man says it's astounding for him to do what he did so easily when it took him a lifetime to master, and he's curious if he's really never learned this before. He says he just followed what he did. He tells Chulwoo to hurry up and hang it. He says sure. And the old man is surprised that he's so damn strong, because he lifted it when it usually takes multiple men to carry. And Chulwoo asks if he really needs to use these tools. The old man is curious as to what he means, and Chulwoo heads out. All we hear is rustling. Before he comes out, the old man is shocked as Chulwoo is carrying a dead pig that he killed with his fist. He says that, in the end, they just have to butcher it now. He can tell they're not ordinary people, asking if they're martial artists. Jian says they once were, and the old man asks why a martial artist would want to do this type of work. And Jian says he just wants to live normally. The old man says that if he puts his mind to it, he could find plenty of other work. Jian says they looked, but it wasn't easy. The old man says that he can tell they haven't had a smooth life, and takes in a deep breath, saying it's a shame there's not much time left. Jian says if he teaches him well, he won't be disappointed. It jumps to somewhere else as a dude breaks his pen. He asks somebody if they really just mentioned the Healing Sun Medical House. The other dude says yes. Apparently, a member of the imperial family who retired has fallen gravely ill, and the imperial court personally made a request to the Healing Sun Medical House. The dude who's raging is named Yong Ho Yung. He says that the physicians of the medical house clashed with the Gadong, but that it is strange since those bastards wouldn't just start taking heads for no reason. The man he's talking to is named Dang Bek, and he says that apparently the Gadong were after the petroleum. Yong Ho Yung is surprised and says that that's a waste to think that the petroleum which can't be bought is being used on some old royal who's about to kick the bucket. Dang says it's not used for the royal's treatment. The owner was someone else, so there is still a chance. Yong Ho Yung asks if saying that it's not property of the Healing Sun Medical House. Dang Bek says that's correct. They say that the Gadong were originally chasing that person when they clashed with the Healing Sun Medical House. And Yong Ho Yung says he should have said that sooner, asking who it is that owns the petroleum. Dang Bek tells him that it's somebody named Jiang from Shaoxing, and he bought it from the Soyang Merchant Union. Yong Ho Yung laughs, saying that he doesn't know how that greedy old pig managed to get his hands on that, but this is an opportunity like no other. He can cure the illness of the little brat the Yang Ho clan treasures most, and he tells Dang Bek to use whatever means necessary to bring it back. And if he's already used the petroleum, then capture whoever drank it. Since they definitely couldn't have absorbed the effects yet, it'll be present in their blood. Sometime later, we see Jin butchering the pig. While the old man watches, he says this is astonishing. He heard already that he had plenty of experience with the blade, but his progress is incredibly fast, and there's nothing left for him to teach him. Jian says that it's all thanks to his proper instruction, but the old man says he's grateful even knowing it was an old attachment. He devoted his entire life to this craft, and he hoped it would be preserved. His hand shakes as he stretches it forward. He said if not, he thought it would be better for it to disappear altogether. Thanks to him, his wish finally feels fulfilled, and he can close his eyes in peace. Jion says not at all. He was worried about what he should do after returning to his hometown, but thanks to him, he's been able to settle down, and he's the one who should be grateful. Chulwu says that he could have just chopped it up roughly and sold it, and he throws the pig into a barrel, asking why he has to learn this too. The old man is annoyed, saying instead of giving him a knife, just make him do the odd jobs, and at least his slaughtering skill is serviceable, so this much is fine. Chulwu says that he's finally saying something sensible for once. Later, we see them all drinking. Chulwu says that they should just do what he says, as knives aren't his thing anyways. Jian tells him to do whatever he wants, and he laughs, thanking him. Chulwu then asks the old man if he'll have some alcohol too, and Jian is surprised and slaps him, asking what the hell he's yapping about. But Chulwu says that if it's time to go, one drink should be fine. And the old man laughs, saying that even if it kills him, he can't let a day like today pass without a drink. Sometime later, Hyun is surprised, saying that things have really been stirred up. Jean asks when he got here, and he's more surprised by the fact that she's carrying a broom, and he yoinks it out of her hand, asking what she thinks she's doing. She says that he must not know, but their big brother took over this butcher shop. He says he actually heard on the way. She says that since he worked so hard to get this shop, it shouldn't be dirty, and he tells her that's enough and she can stop. He asks her if business is going well, but she says not yet. It's only been a few days since the owner passed away, and it officially opened. It'd be unreasonable to expect it to do well. He asks what happened to the old man, and she says that he went to sleep peacefully the night the shop was taken over. Jion then enters, asking when he got here, as he was worried since the escort run was taking so long. Hyun says that as he can see he's perfectly fine, but in the end, can't believe his brother actually did something while he was gone, because it wasn't even that long of a trip. Jion asks if he doesn't like the way things turned out. Hyun says that's not what he means. He's just a bit taken aback. He never imagined a butcher shop of all things, but asks if it'll be okay, as this is a really famous one. The old man who used to own this place was something else. If his skills fall even a little short, he'll get cursed out non-stop. Jion tells him not to worry. He has a fair amount of confidence, and if they're gonna make a living, they have to work hard, and he means all of them. Hogue starts yelling for him and runs across the town. Jian asks what happened. He tells him that they're here, and Chulwu pulls his ear, telling him to explain it properly. Hogue tells him to let go, asking why he's so damn violent. Chulwu says it's a sign of affection, and if he wants to show him real violence, he will. Hogue says hell no, but tells Jion that he met one of the physicians from Zhang's family, and that he was told to bring the youngest, wondering when they should go. Zhang takes off his apron, saying they can head out right now. As they get there, Zhang's happy to see him. Zhang says he rushed over as soon as he heard the news, and he hopes he didn't rush over too fast. He says not at all. The physician from the main family wanted to see the patient as soon as possible, and he introduces her as Huang Yang. Jian recognizes her, and so do we, and she says that sure is a coincidence. Her bodyguards say indeed, and now they understand why they were after him in the first place. Zhang asks if they met before. Zhang says that when he went to get the petroleum, there were people targeting them, and they helped them at that point. Zhang laughs, saying that fate truly works in mysterious ways. Zhang says he regretted leaving in such a hurry, and he'd like to express his gratitude once again. Yang says not to worry about it, since he was trying to obtain the notoriously hard to find petroleum. She understands why he was pressed for time. Jiang then introduces Jean to her. Jean looks nervous, saying that she looks forward to her help. Young says that she's truly beautiful and she's glad to be here, but tells her illness is not something a physician can cure alone. Only when patient and physician fight together can the disease be overcome. Jean gets a little embarrassed and agrees. Young says this is good and tells everybody to step out for a moment. Half an hour later, as everybody's waiting, Ji-yeon looks anxious, biting his nails, and Chul-woo wonders why it's taking so long. Young then exits as Ji-yeon asks how she is. She says that she's identified the illness. They ask what it is. She says she was born with the heavenly divine veins. Ji-yeon asks if she means that, and if she's sure she doesn't mean the 9 severed meridians. Young says they're similar, but it's a different condition. Just before she left the main family, a patient with the same symptoms visited. At first, she thought it was the severed meridians and began treatment, but there was a subtle difference and she felt something was off. If she hadn't found records of the divine veins in the main family's archive, she never would have identified her condition. Chul-woo asks if it can be cured. Young says to be honest, she can't give it a definitive answer. The patient had already missed the right time. However, according to the record, the main family's acupuncture clearly has an effect on it. Chul-woo asks if the person in the record's life was saved, and she says about that, but we don't get to hear it, of course. Because instead, it's some time later, the air is super foggy, and Hogue is scared, asking if things will go well. Chul-woo asks why he's asking again, saying, of course it will. Hogue then asks if they think they'll get the results soon. Chul-woo says not even 10 minutes have passed yet, and they probably haven't even started yet. He stares at Ji-yeon, and Ji-yeon just recalls what Young said. Ji-yeon tells her he understands that she failed. Young says it did, and Ji-yeon asks why. She says first it was far too late. She was 21 when she came to the main family, and by then the energy had already seeped into her marrow, rendering all medicines useless. Second, while the symptoms may appear similar, the energy flowing through someone born with the divine veins is far more powerful than that of the severed meridians in terms of illness severity. Can be considered much more critical. Jiang asks if she's really certain because it sounds like it's the other way around. There's not a single case of someone with the severed meridians living past 18, but she just said that somebody with the divine veins lived until 21. She says that's only because of the petroleum. It was thanks to that she barely managed to cling to life past 20. Ji-yeon says to think she still lost her life even after the petroleum is crazy. Young agrees, saying it's nuts. But if the main family's acupuncture had been used when she took the petroleum, the situation would have been different. Ji-yeon says in that case, he asked that she take good care of her. She's one of the few precious siblings he has, and she can tell just how worried he is. Back to the present, he's waiting, saying that she spoke as if it were nothing, but he can't shake this uneasiness. If something really even by the slightest chance goes wrong, what is he meant to do? Hogue says that it feels like 2 hours have passed, and Chul-woo tells him to be quiet. Hogue turns before something flicks his forehead, and Cheol-woo catches him as he slumps out. Ji-yeon says that it seems some uninvited guests have arrived. He looks out into the bamboo forest. It's eerily quiet, but we see a group of men armed outside. It's none other than Dang Baek asking if this is where the target is. One of his men says that it is, and he reminds them that the primary objective is the petroleum, and that the medical house will be handled by him along with the Vice Hall Master Squads 1 and 2. He then tells Squad 3 not to let a single person escape and secure the front gate immediately. As they start moving, their Chul-woo cuts them off, telling them to stay put. They're surprised, and the first dude who walks up literally gets his head fucking deleted. Dang Baek and the rest are surprised, asking who he is, and he says that's his line, asking why they're all dressed up like idiots in the woods together. Dang Baek says for him to cause this much damage with a single strike, he's a monster. And judging by his appearance, he's not the one called Jen that they're looking for. He tells one of his men that he's going to go kill that bastard Jen, and he'll leave this one to him. He leaps away, and Chul-woo watches, saying that he sure is fast. His men ask if he's not intending to stop him. He asks what would be the point. They tell him that his friend could be in danger, and he laughs, asking if they're really worried about his boss and if they want to make a bet. He'll bet them that their boss is going to be the one dead very shortly. They call him arrogant, but also tell him that they have no personal grudge, so they're sorry they have to do this to him. He laughs, asking why they are still talking, as they should just get to dancing already. All of the men leap at him in unison, completely surrounding Chul-woo, and he smiles. All we see is a bright light and dudes flying through the air. Dang Baek turns, seeing the explosion, saying, as expected, they're going to have trouble. And he's in a hurry to kill Ji-yeon and grab the petroleum because then he can go help. Ji-yeon cuts him off, asking what he's thinking so deeply about. He's surprised that he closed the gap without him noticing and goes to draw his blade. Then John asks him where he's from and what it is he came here for. Dang Beck says that he thought that they would be greenhorns since they run a butcher shop, but they're damn monsters. As he charges in, Jian says this means he's not going to answer. He thrusts towards his head. Jian sidesteps and then he tries to swing downwards. It gets dodged again, and his eyes go red with pure rage as he's sitting there trying to land any meaningful blow he can. Until Jian gets tired of dodging and uses 2 fingers hitting a point on his wrist. He drops his blade, and Jian grabs it before stabbing him in the foot. He screams as he falls to the floor, and Jian says he'll ask again, wondering where he's from and why he came here. If it's for the medical house or if it's maybe for the petroleum. The guy freezes up, and John says this means he did come here for the petroleum. Not many people know that he obtained it, so where did he hear it from? Dang Beck pops something in his mouth saying this is as far as he goes. Jian says if he answers, he'll spare his life, but instead sees his body falling over limp as he starts foaming out of the mouth. Jian says if this is how they're going to play, he needs to tell Chul Wu to let a couple of them live. But when he turns, he's already walking over saying that it's fine and that it's all done on his side. Ji asks if he killed all of them and he smiles saying, of course, realizing he made a mistake and he definitely should not have sent this moron over there. Chul Wu then asks if the guy is dead and Jian says that he is. He took his own life before he could make a move. He didn't realize he was taking a poison pill. Chul Wu says that it makes sense because his attention was focused on his side. But it's a pity as they couldn't find out who was behind it and they might swarm them like gnats again. Ji says that won't happen since the petroleum is gone now. But if they do swarm, they'll all end up dead like that. Chul Wu says them swarming isn't all that bad as it'll be pretty enjoyable and it would help get through these boring daily life. Jian gets annoyed asking what he means by boring as he's seen so much blood yet he still wants to see more. Chul Wu realizing he sounded crazy says that's not what he was talking about. Jian says he really hates having his current peaceful life shattered and Chul Wu agrees with him. Jian then says he's just being noisy telling him to clean up this place properly. Chul Wu asks if he has to do it himself and Jian says that he was the one who caused the mess and he's gonna head on in. Chul Wu asks how the hell he's meant to do this by himself. Eventually he makes his way back saying he finished and he opens the door. John says that he smells something burning asking if he set the forest on fire. He says there was too much blood on the bamboo so he burned a bit of it, but it's taking way too long asking if it's really not over yet. Jion says that it's definitely gonna go well. Chul Wu says that it definitely should with Zhang's family being involved but also the petroleum. Zhang tells him to be quiet since Zhang is coming out and we see him exiting. Zhang quickly asks how it went. He tells him that they did well today and her condition has improved. They both look surprised and Zhang grabs his hand thanking him. Jiang says that if he comes inside, he'll give him the detailed explanation. When they enter what they see is Young, sweating and panting. Jiang wonders what's going on and she says that she knows it stinks. It's because the impure qi within her body has been expelled. Her men tell her to quickly circulate her qi, but she says that it's not that bad. While they did their best using the petroleum with her family's techniques, unfortunately, they failed to achieve a complete cure. Jian is confused that they said that she clearly improved and Young says that she has and she's become healthier beyond comparison to the past. But they could not cure her completely and she's sorry. Jian says that he heard that it was a technique that harmed the physician as well and he has nothing to say but his thanks and gratitude. She says on the contrary, it was an opportunity she could call lucky to encounter such a rare disease and even be able to use the petroleum as treating patients is naturally a duty and principle physicians must uphold. Chul Wu though seems to have other thoughts saying that it felt ominous from the moment he heard everything failed. Her men wonder if he's trying to start something and Jian tells him to stop it. But Chul Wu says in the end it was just smooth talk, and if she thinks she's lucky, she must be trying to get something out of this. The men start yelling asking if he's trying to insult her, and he starts to release his aura asking if he said something wrong. And his aura alone is so powerful, it makes everybody in the room finally understand just how strong this dude is. But Jian begins to release his too and tells him to apologize immediately. Young asks what the hell is the deal with this chi is that giant man was surprising enough, but for giant to be even greater than that is crazy. Chul Wu under no pressure folds saying that he made a huge mistake out of frustration. Jian asks for her to forgive his younger brother's mistake and offers an apology as well. Young says that he doesn't have to do that as she's the one who should apologize. She expected and hoped there would be no major issues, but she cannot completely rule out the possibility of a relapse. Jiang says that that's nonsense. It was a perfect technique and she couldn't have done better than this. What is regrettable is that her symptoms were far more vicious than the 9 severed meridians, but there's also a miscalculation. Jiang asks what he means, and he explains that he overestimated the efficacy of the petroleum. It was insufficient to handle the powerful yin qi of the divine meridian. Chul Wu says that even if the petroleum is insufficient, then what kind of medicine do they need? Yang says rather than insufficient, it is more correct to say that a spiritual medicine with a different usage is needed. As far as she knows, there are almost no spiritual medicines that surpass the petroleum. However, unlike the petroleum which has a near-perfect harmony of yin and yang, there are spiritual medicines that excel in extreme yang or extreme yin. Jian says that means that his sister's illness requires something like that, and Yang says exactly. Jian then asks what's the name of the medicine, and she says that is the Shaolin's Great Revitalizing Pill. Sometime later back at the butcher shop, Chul Wu asks if he's gonna go rob their shit or not. Jian asks where, and Chul Wu drinks his alcohol saying the Shaolin Temple. Jian stares at him, and Chul Wu asks if he really doesn't want to. Jian says he's gonna think about what to do with the time they have now since his sister's gotten better. Chul Wu says that he's gonna go sooner or later, and Jian says he won't. Chul Wu asks if he's certain, and Jian says that since Young was confident she'd be fine for the time being, there's no need to rush. It hasn't even been long since he came home, so he wants to stay with his siblings for now. It'll be a long journey, so he needs to establish the shop first. Chul Wu says that makes sense because if the both of them go to Shaolin, the shop won't be running for business anymore. And if they want the butcher shop to run even after they leave, they need to teach them properly. Jian asks who, and Chul Wu says that he's talking about his brothers because he thought that he was going to make them quit their jobs anyways. Jian says that was his intention, and Chul Wu says that going to Shaolin would be postponed at least until they can run the butcher shop properly. Jian says that's right. Chul Wu says that Hyun is originally diligent, so there won't be a problem, but Haoj is a different problem. And he says speak of the devil as Haoj runs in calling out for his brother. Jian tells him to calm down, asking what's wrong. He says that Hyun has been kidnapped, and Ji-in looks surprised, asking what he means. Hoga says that he heard that a while ago they followed his escort group on a mission, and they were all kidnapped by bandits. Chul Wu starts to get pissed, and Jian says that it's time to go to the escort agency he was working with. They head there as Hoga escorts them into the agency. We see the family members of all the laborers asking where their family members are. The worker says that they're currently negotiating with the kidnappers. The family members ask what he means by negotiating. The dude says that he can't give the details, but the hostages are a top priority and they're doing everything in their power. If they trust them and wait a little longer, everyone will return safely. Hoga gets pissed, saying he is just giving formal answers and he'll ask himself. Somebody walks over asking if they're sending in a rescue team or if there's any other methods to get them back home. The man asks who he's meant to be, and he introduces himself saying that his older brother is held as a prisoner. The man apologizes, but says that they need to negotiate with him as much as possible to resolve the situation. He tells them all that they're doing their utmost so to trust them and wait, and he turns around leaving. Chul Wu says that dude has zero sincerity, but Hogue as well finds it suspicious. He recognizes one of his brother's colleagues, and he walks over. His name is Jang Song. Jang Song is surprised that he came, and Hogue asks how it's going, and if they're really doing negotiations like that dude said. He says of course, and everybody will be back safely soon, so not to worry. Hoga then drags them to the side, and Jion says they should follow too. Hoga says that now that they're far enough away, he wants to know how the situation is really going. Jang Song says the bastards are demanding money in exchange for the hostages, but the amount they asked for is beyond imagination. Hoga asks how much, and he says they're asking for 100 gold. He looks surprised, and Ji-yun asks if it's really how much they're wanting. Jang Song turns worried if it's one of his colleagues, but recognizes Ji-on as one of Hyen's brothers. Jang Song asks why they didn't come inside. Ji-on says they were going to, but Jean fainted before they left. He asks what happened, and John says that she was shocked after she heard the news. He says he sees asking if she's okay now, and John says that she is. He sighs, saying that he is relieved, but Chul Wu asks how a small agency like this is going to get a 100 gold. Jang Song says that this is quite sizable in the area, so why is he calling it small? Chul Wu says that he definitely must be thinking of another way, and wonders if they're sending in a rescue team. The dude is surprised, but asks how he knows since everyone is keeping it hush-hush. Chul-woo tells him that the atmosphere just screamed it to him, but it seems that it will be difficult just with their power alone. Jang Song says that they're going to get help from other people, and they've already sent some. Chul-woo says that he doesn't know if it will go well, since the people who took the hostages will probably roughly expect this to happen. Ji then asks who did this because he knows there's a certain line between the agencies and the Green Forest. Jang Song says that it seems they haven't come to their senses even after their stronghold was destroyed, realizes something and asks him more about it. He says that it's a stronghold called the Golden Tiger Bandit Camp and it's quite famous in the area, but it was decimated a while ago. Jian asks if he's saying that the Golden Tiger Bandit Camp has revived, and Jang Song says yes. The leader who left the stronghold finally returned. John, realizing he needs to finish business, tells Houge that he left Jean with their neighbor and he needs to go take good care of her. Houge asks where he's going, and John says he has to go take care of some unfinished business. Jang Song tries to tell him that he shouldn't leave in this situation, but Chul-woo says that they have found a way to save their brother and that he shouldn't worry and just go take care of Jean. Inside of the head office for the escort agency Hyun works for, a man is yelling asking if it's true. The dude who was talking to all the citizens earlier says that contact came from the Blaze escort agency, and it's certain. The other man says that this is truly a gift from the heavens, asking if the warriors of the Namgung clan are really helping. He says yes. They've already departed for the camp. The guy is just surprised that it's so fast because the Blaze escort agency was hit by those bastards before they were. But he doesn't have time to worry about it because they need to prepare to leave immediately. Back at the stronghold that was destroyed previously, we see the leader drinking some alcohol, asking if there was any reaction from the escort bureau since they've cut off the ears of hostages and sent them already. The guy says not yet, even after the 4th time. The leader asks if they've really said nothing after 4 times of that. Homie tells him they made one proposal. Since they don't have the money requested, they want to pay half first. The leader says that's interesting, but what else? The man says that if they send half the prisoners, they get the rest of their money. He says that there's a shame that their reputation is in tatters all because of the fact their camp was destroyed the moment he stepped away. But also he wants to know if they found the culprit yet. The man says that they are mobilizing the full power of the guards, but there's still nothing yet. The leader shatters the cup out of anger, saying that he wants to find him personally and tear him to bits, but rebuilding the camp is his #1 priority. And for that, he bowed to the Green Forest and even received support from the head patrol and elders. So he will milk them for all they are worth, but they need to go ahead of schedule and send some eyes and ears to them. Another man says that instead of that, they should cut off their heads and send them. The leader is surprised, saying that he's glad to see the head patrols finally arrive, but if they start off that strong, the backlash is too severe. There is a risk that the sects and clans connected to the agency will send a subjugation squad. The head patrol says that's exactly what he wants. No matter how strong the squad is, the elders and the supreme masters of the Green Forest are with them, so there's no problem. That dude from the Goonies stands there laughing, and some messed up wizard says that it cannot be said to be wrong unless the Imperial Army Masters come. There will be nothing wrong. The leader, still anxious, agrees though, and tells his men to cut off their heads and send them immediately. But as soon as he finishes saying that, the wall gets blown open, and they all turn as one of the men's bodies land in front of them. Cole-woo says that it was completely wrecked, but they restored it this much in a short time, and it's low-key surprising. The leader asks who they are and if they were sent by the escort bureau. Cole-woo says that means they really sent a rescue squad, and the head patrol says that if they aren't working for the bureau, then what do they want? Ji says that there's no need for them to be curious. They just run a small shop in town, but wants to know if he's the leader of the Golden Tiger Bandit Camp. The head patrol laughs, asking what he'll do if he is, and Jen says that he's gonna kill him. The leader goes to draw his blade, but the patrol head tells him to wait as he wants his men to deal with him since their boredom has reached its limit. The leader puts his blade back, saying he understands, and Meth Head walks up saying that this is perfect. Chul-woo says that since he has business with the bandit head, he'll take care of the rest of the trash. Ji-Ian says that he knows he's just saying that because he wants to fight. Chul-woo tells him it's a little bit of both that and wanting to save Yun. Jian says go for it, and he starts to approach the Meth Head and charges in for a swing. Meth Head ducks underneath before using his smoking pipe and pokes him straight in the chest, but is surprised as he distances himself, saying that he blocked an attack with over 60 years of eternal energy with just body protecting ki and realizes he's no ordinary man. Chul-woo says he's interesting and he's at least the level of a demonic pathmaster, so he can get a little serious too. Meth Head realizes that if he's this relaxed after seeing him, then he must be a formidable master himself. Chul-woo asks if he's going to come or not, and the old man gets agitated and runs straight in. He thrusts multiple times towards Chul-woo, saying it'll land perfectly, but instead his pipe hits the barrier, and he realizes he made a mistake. As the last of his teeth fly out of his mouth, he goes straight towards Sloth from the Goonies. Sloth catches him and starts screaming, asking if he's okay, but also what happened. The meth head tells him to be careful, and Sloth says that this is one of the Green Forest top masters, yet he was defeated in a single strike. Chul-woo gets pissed, saying he can't believe his body-protecting ki was pierced, and says that his skill must have decreased, or this old man is just strong. Jiyeon says that it's probably the former, and Chul-woo gets pissed that he's rusty, and he says that as expected, running a butcher shop isn't enough, and that he needs the rest to come at him all at once. The patrol head asks Sloth what they're meant to do, and he says that he's not an opponent they can face with pride. So he'll create an opening, and they can lead the unit in for a total attack. As we see them staring from above, Sloth charges in with his fist raised high, and Chul-woo matches him, but ducks underneath his punch, hitting him straight in the face. Sloth gets sent flying back, sliding across the floors. The patrol head tells the entire unit to swarm him. They all start stabbing him in unison, but their swords break off of his body, and he says that they're nothing but annoying to him. Somebody else tells everybody to dodge. Chul-woo turns, stomping to his side, and just the shockwave alone sends the entire unit flying. The patrol head asks how this could be, and Sloth takes the chance to close the gap again. Chul-woo says that he likes his spirit, and Sloth tells him to shut up as he swings. Chul-woo ducks to the side, and Sloth tries for a counter, which gets dodged too. He says he admits that he's strong, but even if he were to die, he's not going to do it alone. As his hands start to burn with a red aura, he comes in once more, and Chul-woo tells him that he shouldn't get his hopes up too high. As he stretches out his fist, he charges straight in, meeting Sloth's attack, creating a massive shockwave. It starts to send Sloth flying backwards, but Chul-woo doesn't let him, and instead, his fist goes straight through the dude's skull. The patrol head realizes they made a mistake as he looks down at Sloth, who is now buried in the floorboard with his head deleted. Chul-woo says that he didn't expect him to try to dodge, and that's the only reason his hand went through his head. The patrol head gets scared and backs up to a wall, telling him to wait as his father is the high leader of the 18 branches of the Green Forest. If he spares him, it'll be okay. Chul-woo tells him to shut the hell up as he squeezes his head, killing him, and throws him onto the floor by Sloth, saying that sometimes this kind of flood is nice. He tells Jiyeon that it's all over, and Jiyeon says that the only one left now is the leader. The leader realizes that the Green Forest top masters were defeated in an instant, and the other man hasn't stepped up once. It's a waste, but he must sacrifice the guards and flee to fight another day. Jen says that previously he asked who they were, and that maybe he would like to hear that they were the ones who destroyed this place. He looks surprised, but also pissed realizing that they were the ones who destroyed his camp. He realizes he can't let them escape. Meanwhile, in the forest nearby the camp, we see the rescue squad on their way. And just like what we learned before, have members of the Namgung clan. One of them, who looks young, named Min, asks why there are so many thorns and vines. The bureau leader of Hyun's escort agency, Yugon, tells them all that he's sorry, but this path was the fastest route they could have taken. Min says that he's just kidding, as a rough path doesn't matter when they came here to catch bandits. Another member of the Namgun clan named Kyung says that he's still young, telling everybody else not to be like him and to keep this in mind. While subduing them is important, the top priority is the safety of those taken prisoners, and they shouldn't act rashly to put them in danger. They say yes, sir, and he stares at them for a second before he says it's time to keep moving. But he comes to a stop. Min asks what's wrong. He says that seems a fight has broken out. Min asks if he's talking about from the bandit camp, and he says yes. It seems to already be over though. Min asks if another group moved in before them. As he did here, the escort bureau requested help from other people in advance. Kyung says he doesn't know, but it seems that they must hurry. Back to the leader, who's swinging his sword wildly, trying to hit Jiyeon at all. He's destroying his building while Jiyeon's dodging it all. Pisses him off, and he screams, telling him to fight like a man. Jiyeon asks if he's really that angry. The leader tells him to stop yapping, but Jen says that he needs to know if he's so angry that he's willing to destroy his own home. The leader says that his fortress, which he built his entire life, was smashed by a brat, so, of course, he's angry. and he's gonna exterminate 9 generations of his family and erase the very village they live in. Jion says he sees, and he feels it's a waste to lose this place even though it was grown by oppressing the weak and kidnapping innocent people selling them off. The leader says that's just what bandits do, but that has nothing to do with him. As he charges in, we see his teeth get sent flying. Jian hits him quickly in the face. He starts to fall unconscious onto the floor and buries his head into it. Jian says that if he thinks that has nothing to do with him, he's mistaken, as 12 years ago, he was captured here, tortured, and then sold off like livestock. He starts stomping on the man's leg, crushing it. He says that after they sold him to the demonic path, he was treated worse than a beast, and he crossed the line between life and death hundreds of times before finally escaping. And when the person, the breadwinner of his family, vanished, they were barely surviving. And eventually, his mother passed away from all the hardship. He breaks his arm next before kicking him in the chest, sending him flying into a pillar. He says he's pissed because he couldn't be there for his mother in her final moments. And the leader says that he never expected one of their slaves to come back for revenge. Jion says that if that wasn't enough, he kidnapped his younger brother. And if he really doesn't understand why this has to do with him, he's just stupid. The leader says he was wrong begging for his life to be spared. Bro has a single tooth left. Jen says that he's going to make him beg to be killed instead. And once he tells him the location of the prisoners on his own, he will allow him to die. He puts 2 fingers up to the man's chest and starts electrocuting him as we see it flowing into him. He screams out in pain, and it continues as Jion is making sure that he tortures him just as he was previously. Hyung then enters yelling for him to stop, but Jion continues. Chol-woo asks who the old man is, and Jion says that he should handle him for him. Chol-woo says this is some light work, and Kyung draws his blade running in. Chol-woo swings towards his head, saying that he's not going to let him get close. He sends out an aura blast from the punch, and Kyung spots it and has to use his own aura to block it. But he realizes that it's just got ran through, so he has to send out more trying to block it. Takes 7 cuts. He says that he didn't use his full strength, but for his sword ki to be deflected so easily, this is a problem. Chol-woo tells him that that wasn't bad. He didn't expect him to dodge it, and it'll definitely be more fun than the meth head as he looks down at him. Kyung recognizes him as one of the top masters of the Green Forest, saying that while his character's ass's skill is significant, but as he thought he needs to take this guy seriously, we see him using something called the Blue Sky 1 key art. Chol-woo gets impressed, saying that he thought he was no ordinary man, and finally he can get serious too. They start to charge in at one another, and we see their ki clash once more in the middle. Chol-woo doesn't stop there though, as he comes in with another punch. Hyung ducks underneath and closes the gap, saying that he won't be able to dodge this, and he slices across him multiple times. He then turns ready for the follow-up, but begins to spit up blood, asking how this is possible, as he thought Chol-woo would at least have been left with a critical wound. But all he did was graze his neck, and Chol-woo says it's been a while since he's seen his own blood. The other members of the Namgung clan asked where the hell such a monster came from. Min goes to draw his blade, and they all stand before Chol-woo as he laughs at them. He says that it's always the ones with no skill who try to push with numbers, but they should know that doesn't work on everyone. Kyung tells them all to stop as he's not done yet. Min tries to reason with him, but Kyung says that they're just smearing the honor of their clan and to fall back. Chol-woo says that's more like it, but Ji-on tells them all to wait. Chol-woo asks what's going on, and when he turns around, he sees his face and starts freaking out. He walks over towards Kyung carrying the leader, asking if they're from the Namgung clan. Who the fuck is that?